And I got something in my own personal life that I would like to talk about it with kind of respect to my mother. It's my stepdad. And I only speak about this because it helps me. It helps me understand and potentially helps other people. But you know, at the cost of my mother, she's allowed the abuse from her husband to continue for the years. She's felt a value in herself by taking on the weight of the abuse of her husband, right? And also feeling that she can sort of save him from himself and from his own consequences of his own actions. And he's been a real tyrant. His children don't like him. Very, very few people do like him. But he's just, because he's just made people's lives impossible. He's somebody that only thinks about himself. Complete narcissist. And he had a traumatic childhood, so my mother can often feel sorry for him and be like, well, it wasn't his fault and it's not his fault and so forth. It's understandable how he is today. She justifies it and she justifies the abuse. And for years now, my mother's been at her wit's end where she's been like, I can't carry on this way. What can I do? And I'll be, well, but you possibly got to look at going your separate ways. And that what for her wasn't an option. She didn't want to be on her own, which is understandable in a way, but she didn't at the same time realizing that their situation is just going to get worse. And so we've been speaking about it for the last probably 10 years, I would say, if not more. And over the years, her situation's just gotten worse because her husband, for himself, he's getting older and he's more restless now. The world is more compromising. He wants to decide to go to Israel when he wants to decide to go to Israel, and now he can't because, you can't get in without the jab, without the needle, and whatever it is. And so, he wants to be in control of the whole situation, and he wants to be in control of the whole household, where my mother lives. And, if my mother spends too much time in the garden, then he gets frustrated because she's not spending enough time, focusing her energies on him. She's ignoring him if she's spending too much time in the garden. That's the type of character he is. With his children, it's like if they come 5 minutes late, 1 minute late for like a dinner that, my mother's hosting for them or something like that, then he absolutely loses it. He's like, you've got to be punctual type of thing and do not keep him waiting type of thing. It's all on his terms. It's all in his time. He's never late, and there should be absolutely no apparent reason why anybody should be late. Ever, according to him. So he can't handle it, whatsoever. And I mean, for myself, like when I've gone to my mother for meals or said I'm going to be there, I've got to make sure. It's an absolute stress because I'm 2 minutes late. It's really unacceptable, And so, and my mother's had to compromise and try and calm him down when even his own children didn't come and on time or whatever it is, or something or other. And so he hasn't got a good relationship with his children. He hasn't got a good relationship with anybody really, right? And he kind of knows it in his own very being, but he's not prepared to change and become a better person, a softer, gentle person, less controlling, less manipulative, less more thoughtful of others rather than just himself, type of thing, narcissistic, and he hasn't wanted to. And my mother's held on for dear life and prayed that he would, and maybe if he gets on medication it can help, and I'm like, that's not going to help. And he won't go see a psychiatrist or psychologist because on the surface of things he doesn't feel there's anything wrong with him. He thinks he's the world's most perfect husband, I mean, he's so pedantic that he counts. I mean, when my mother leaves the house, she's got to check in with him where she's going, how long she's going to be gone for, what is she doing, and every step that she takes, he's in control and whatever it is. Like when he phones her, she's got to answer her phone within the first 2 rings of it, type of thing, and it's horrendous. And so my mother's compromised herself, and she's felt like an importance by compromising herself. She's felt like this has given her meaning in her life by compromising, herself and being there for her husband and being a good wife. I mean, she's got a friend as well who She's, I think, about 78, and her husband's 92, and that he should be in a home being looked after by nurses, but my mom's friend refuses to take him to have even a night nurse. And my mom's friend is this tiny little lady, and she drags her husband off onto the toilet like several times in the night. I mean, he can barely walk, and she feels that this is making, she's a good person, she's a good wife, she's, a knight in shining armor, she's the Florence Nightingale type of thing, that she's the savior of the day by compromising and sacrificing herself for her husband, who's actually completely verbally abusive to her, and I think it has been physically as well. But that gives her identity, gives her value, and so for my mother in that way, it gives her value for compromising on her husband. But not only that, more so it just keeps the illusion going, the illusion that one day he will change, the illusion that they actually are a marriage, that they're married people. And I say, well, you're not. This is not a marriage, right? This is because when times are okay, for every few days where he's okay and he's doing his thing, she just sort of, she's sweet to him, and they'll go for a cup of coffee and they'll get takeaways and whatever it is and type of thing. But and then therefore it's justified. She has these sort of lighter, easier moments, which are very few, maybe 10%. I mean, besides the fact of him wanting to sleep at 6:30 in the evening, and then she must also get into bed at 6:30 and not disturb him, type of thing. I mean, it's terrible. I know I'm disclosing here, but I suppose this is type of my therapy as well. I mean, my mother snores at night and it wakes him up, and so he wakes her up and shouts at her every time, she snores, and then she doesn't sleep well, and then she says, I'll go sleep in the room next door, and he's like, no, married people are supposed to sleep together, type of thing. We don't sleep apart, or something like that. So he's completely controlling. So he's controlling in every aspect of her life, in every aspect of her being, type of thing. And so again, my mother's identity has become enmeshed, in playing this role, in being controlled by him, of not having her freedom, of not having to not be responsible for him and his consequences of his actions in his own life, So she doesn't know her worth anymore, and so she doesn't know what to do, because as soon as there's a little bit of a confrontation, a conflict, a disagreement, I don't know, she spends too much time in the garden, or she gets the gardener to come and do something, but he was wanting to swim in the pool, and therefore he can't swim in the pool because the gardener's there, or something or other. He throws an absolute fit and swears and goes wild, or something or something other, than threatens to pack his bags and leave. And he knows that my mother just falls to pieces when he says that, and so he just uses it as a tactic of abuse. But then again, my mom sort of she knows all about this, but she doesn't have the strength to act accordingly, because she doesn't want him to leave. She's even afraid of how is he going to manage, because he's, I think, 78 years old or something, or 74, and she's worried, like, he doesn't know how to manage himself. He doesn't know how to if he had to move out, how is he going to function? He doesn't know how to look after himself. He believes that he can. He believes that he can do just about anything. He's capable of anything, but he's not. Like, he wouldn't be able to, even if he stayed somewhere else, to get the internet connected or something like that. He relies completely on my mother. But the thing is that my mother is so lonely in that way. She's only got me to talk to. She's got nobody else. I mean, she's got her own children, but my brothers are too busy, and my brothers can't understand, and my brothers don't have the maturity for it. I mean, I've got 3 older brothers. I've got 1 younger sister, but she's challenged. And whatever it is. So my mother, she can't talk to her friends about it. I mean, her friends just say, look, we've got our own shit going on here. We don't have space and time to get into this. I don't know what to tell you, I mean, I don't even know. This is too complicated for any of us to handle. That's it. Life is complicated for most of us to absolutely handle it. It's way above our capabilities and our means, I mean, it really is. It's really, really complicated. And so for my mother, it's like, you really got to come to reality here, because for 10 years now your situation is becoming worse and worse and worse, and you think that your husband is going to wake up one day and see the ills of his ways and change, but he's not going to. And so you're not willing to face the music, and so you're continuing in the so-called marriage, in this relationship that's becoming more and more abusive, because the older that he gets, right, the more controlling he becomes, right, the more vulnerable, there's a part of him that feels, so the more aggressive he becomes and the more abusive he becomes, right? And so much of the time in the beginning, my mother used to feel that it was all her fault. It was all that she was doing. He was gaslighting her. It was always that she wasn't able to make him happy, that she wasn't able to, support him and give him all the attention and the love that she needed, and compromising of herself that was required for her, So again, her confidence has been absolutely eroded. So now she doesn't know kind of what to do. And she's in a situation. I've told her, I've said, your situation is just going to get worse and worse and worse, because when things are okay, you convince yourself that everything is okay, and then you play, you cater to him, you compromise to him, you're sweet and you're kind and you're playful and you're silly and whatever it is. It's like, sure, I'll do this and whatever it is, because, and so you are responsible. This is the consequences of your own actions. This is not just only because of him, but because you've allowed this to happen, and I've warned you about it for I don't know how many years, that it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, that he's not going to get better, that he's incapable of change, that this is the reality of the situation. Do not deny it. Do not deny it. But then she'll go into denial, and then she won't, when things are okay, he's not losing his shit. And then, she won't talk to me about it, and I won't bring it up, because in the past when I did bring it up and said, hey, Ma, okay, fine, things have been all right for the last few days, but what about this? She'll be like, no, it doesn't matter, it's all okay now, it's all okay. It's be like, no, it's not okay. It's like, if you're in a relationship with an alcoholic, somebody's an alcoholic, and it's like, when they're not drunk, they're fine. It's like, so what's the problem? You see how we distort the reality to suit ourselves, to not face the music, to not face the challenges. And I keep saying to my mother, life is full of challenges. Life is all about challenge. And for most people, they just think it's like, yes, so you got to overcome the challenge, you got to get that job, you got to, if you want to do public speaking, you got to, you got to you face the music, face the challenge, and, face the fears in that way, and become that, It's like, no, you don't understand how brutal life is. You don't understand, what challenge life is about. You don't understand how brutal it is. You don't understand how it's going to get you to your to your absolute breaking point, where you simply just can't anymore, type of thing, where you're absolutely in your depths of hopelessness and despair and helplessness and whatever it is, and you've got to face the music. It's absolutely frightening, It's absolutely frightening, the challenges of life. But again, for most of us, we don't want to face that kind of music and own up to that and be realistic about things. So we'll change it to suit ourselves, in that way. But it always comes at a cost. Like I say to my mother, it's not your job to save your husband from a life that he's lived. Like, she keeps on saying, well, why is he such a narcissist? Why is he so dysfunctional? Why is he so controlling? Like, I said, it's because it's the way that he's lived his life. Right? It didn't just happen to him. He's not a victim of something or other in a way. It's because out of his own choices. It's because of his own doings, of his own meddlings, of his own refusal to grow up, to face his own shadow, right? There you go. That's the reason, to take the easier path when he should have taken the more challenging path. So now what you're doing is that, you saving him from himself, constantly saving him from yourself while compromising yourself. So, well, that's very, very healthy, isn't it? That's very healthy, that's very true. I mean, isn't that? And so she sees that, well, to a certain degree, but it's very hard to face, it's very hard to endure, And it's very hard to say, well, look, our value lies more than just trying to save others from themselves, from the consequences of their own actions, And so many of us do that all the time. Then we feel good about it. And I think as empaths, we do that all the time. And we feel sorry for people and, well, they don't deserve this or something like that. And then we try and save them from their actions or the consequences and bail them out financially or, do them favors or whatever it might be, And then, feel guilty then we shouldn't feel guilty, feel responsible for them when we shouldn't feel responsible for them, and that's what we do. And then, it's a big lesson that I've had to learn in my life, a massive lesson that I've had to learn in my life, where I felt, I was privileged in South Africa, being in the country that I am, and therefore I feel guilty, and therefore I've got to go beyond my means to help everybody that I possibly can, and go bankrupt, insolvent, just by trying to help others or whatever it is, give them the shirt of my own back. And I was compromising myself because it made me feel good, it made me feel like a virtuous person, it made me feel worthwhile. It made it whatever it is, but little did I realize that 90% of the time I was just enabling people to self-destruct. I was just enabling them to cause harm to themselves because the opportunities that I was giving them, and the means, what I was giving them was like, for example, like I had a lot of Mary Jane and I stopped smoking, and I got a friend who likes to smoke, and I would give him all the time for free when I could have been maybe, not giving it to him and selling it or something or other. I don't know. But he was just using it to heavily medicate himself. And maybe it's not a great example, but I don't know, like I dated a woman once, and she, had her license, but I didn't want her to drive my car because she had a license, but she never really drove, and she wasn't a good driver. And I didn't want to, I didn't feel that she was responsible, and she would drink, and I'd be worried that she would drink and drive, So I didn't want to empower her by, and feeling bad for her, whatever it is. We were working together to try to get her a car. Whatever, didn't manifest, didn't work out. But I was scared of empowering her in that way, of feeling guilty, well, she doesn't have a car, but I also had to be responsible. You see, and I think that's what happens with parents to children. The parent sees, my child, they don't have a cell phone, and the other kids at school have cell phones, and they're getting left out, and, well, I want to be a good parent or something like that, so they give the child the cell phone, right? And then it's so detrimental to the child. It's like, no, a 7-year-old child does not need a cell phone. Does not need an iPad, right? Does not need one. But I feel guilty. I feel they're so impoverished. I must help them. I must assist, or whatever it is. I must do my part, type of thing. And so we do that to we do that to others. It's like we play the denial game. Like we see somebody, a woman who's addicted to plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, or whatever it is, or makeup, and she sits in the sun way too long. More unhealthy. That's healthy. She's actually like brown, completely like dark brown, when she shouldn't be. But yet we when she comes along, we're like, oh, you look so gorgeous, and oh, I love your new hair, and or something like that, or oh, you tan so nicely, and it's so whatever it is, and we encourage one another in the things that are, oh, I love your nose job, or oh, your boob job, or something, and we encourage each other instead of saying, like, when we know that this is bad for somebody, when somebody's like a shopaholic, and they're spending all their money, instead of saying, my dear, you shouldn't be buying dresses, because we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear that, how dysfunctional we are, So you don't tell the person, well, that outfit, you can't really afford it, and you shouldn't be, but we support each other. We support each other in our masks. We support each other in our dysfunctionality, in our dysfunction, in our toxicity, or something like that, We support each other. We don't, encourage each other to be better versions of ourselves, type of thing, or better rounded, or something or other, in a way. So and that's what we do, and we play the act. And we have this agreement that, we were going to be distracted from ourselves, we're going to be distracted from the consequences of our actions or something like that. I'm sure like all politicians, they get together and they say, look, let's not talk about morality here, guys. And you'll only be, that's what business, that's what economics is about to a large degree. It's like, and lawyers, they don't get around and say, let's talk about the morals and ethics of what we're doing here, or police or something like that. They don't talk about that. The police, they don't talk about, well, maybe we shouldn't arrest, 75-year-old people, 80-year-old people who are protesting for their rights, that they don't want to, take a needle or wear a mask or something like that. Maybe we shouldn't, behave this way. Maybe we should be more moral. Maybe we should be more ethical. Maybe we shouldn't be so money hungry, people. Do you think the top companies of the Fortune 500s or whatever it is, is it the Fortune 500s, or like the top companies of the world, which are mostly elite control, but whatever, they don't come around and say, well, are we really adding value to the world, people? Like a positive value to the world. And people aren't doing that. I mean, teachers themselves, when we see the hypocrisy in life, when we see, like, McDonald's isn't, and these fast food and KFCs aren't going around and telling the truth to people, like saying warning on their foods, this will cause these problems. No, they'll put a happy meal, they'll put a happy smiley face and like cartoon animals or something like that, or whatever it is on the packaging type of thing. And then nobody talks about it. So even like the marketers, or the mainstream media, all these so-called news reporters and whatever it is, like, guys, we're talking crap here. Like we should have more, we should be more ethical, we should be more moral, we should have more principles about this. We all know what we are doing here, right? And we all know that it is wrong. We all know that it is wrong, okay? But yet we choose to not see that it is wrong. And that's it. Most of our lives, we see what is wrong fundamentally and we ignore it at our own peril. And we continue every day. And it gets worse and worse, and we keep on ignoring, and we ignore, and we ignore, and we put ourselves in denial. And then we want to live blissfully, we want to live unaware, whatever it is. And the chickens come home to roost. And then, it's like with medication. I mean, you should be solving the problem through your diet, let's say, whatever the problem might be. But you take this one tablet to fix this problem. Then because of that tablet, there's symptoms, there's side effects. You take another tablet to keep, have those side effects, to fix those side effects. It's continuous. And that's what business, and that's what drives this world. That's what drives capitalism. That's what drives culture. What drives society. That's what drives religions a lot of the time. It's just this denial that it's not really adding a value, that things are deteriorating, whatever it is, that we're not fixing things, we're not making things better, we're not growing, right? We're becoming worse off, and whatever it is. And like, we don't need a car that can go from 0 to 120 kilometers in under 3 seconds. We don't need these flashy things. We don't need these diamonds and rings, right? We don't need the copious amounts of fashionable items and, hundreds and millions of shops of different shoes and clothing. We just need the bare essentials, and we all live in it, and we all know it, and we all then deny that we live in such excess, right? In such overindulgence. We all know it. Like that song, like I've said before, by Leonard Cohen. He says, everybody knows. We all know it. Deep down inside, we all know it. Right? And what the psychologists have, saying of the 20th century, what they realized is that there's a deep sense of shame that's going on within each one of us, a deep sense of shame. I'm saying it is so, when you see the tip of the iceberg, in these pictures, you see the tip of the iceberg, and then underneath the water, they show you how deep down the iceberg goes, and the tip is like really, the tip is so small, but majority of it is so deep down at the bottom of the ocean of that iceberg, deep in the ocean, is where we feel this sense of guilt and shame, right? And so that is what we cover up all the time with the mask and the grandiosity, and whatever it is, and the denial of this reality. Because that's essentially, I think, what it's all about. It's all about denial, that we feel the shame that we've rejected who we truly are, that we're not being true to ourselves, that we're not being honest, we're not being authentic to ourselves. And so I think that's how the matrix works. That's how culture is designed. That's how capitalism comes into being. That's how governments come into being. That's how fashion comes into being. That's how a lot of technology, social medias come into being. Everything that comes into being is out of the refusal and the denial of the true self, right? And that deep shame inside by not being essentially honest and truth with who we are. And so we need all of the other stuff. We need all of it. We need the jobs. We need the relationships. We need the foods. We need the pharmaceuticals. We need the televisions. We need the mainstream medias. We need the narratives. We need all of that. All of that to cover up, right? And move us away and shove us into some kind of virtual matrix world, Truman Show world, in a way, infused by the superego, by the ego that we walk in every single day, that we live in every single day, that we pass on from generation to generation. We induct introduce, but also our own children into it as well, into Plato's cave. This is what this world is about. That's why it is so disheartening for the empath. It's so unsettling for the conscious individual. It's so much sometimes of such a hell to actually be a part of when we see how this world is arranged, because we feel it in our very essence, in our very being. And in the beginning, when you start becoming aware of this, you actually feel nauseous, and it makes you feel sick, it makes you feel disorientated, it makes you feel overwhelmed, confused. And it completely sweeps the carpet from under your feet, and you feel like you're falling in mid-air, whatever, when there's no ground beneath you. You Alice falling down the rabbit hole, type of thing. And it's absolutely, absolutely extreme. It's disassociating, it's distressing, it's everything, until you start finding who you truly are, your own true self. You start connecting with that again, which gives you the meaning, which gives you the comfort, which gives you the security, the surety, the confidence, the knowing, right, of being able to navigate in this world and what this world is truly about. I'm saying, just even navigate in this world, and how to act and behave in this world is through the kingdom of heaven is within, through that manifestation, if you will, that accessing of the kingdom of heaven that is within your own true being, your own divinity, right? Your own authenticity, your own higher self, if you will, or something or other, But again, it's a journey to get to there, and most people are so removed from it, more removed from it now. Majority are more removed from it now than I think ever has been on planet Earth. I think, as for the last, maybe 250,000 years, let's just say, for a hell of a long time, for a hell of a long time. But there are pockets of people, there are small amounts of people where they are so deeply connected to this light of themselves that they bring this out into the world, and yet it's so few, but it balances out the dark of this world. And so those people's roles are massively imperative, are highly, highly necessary, in what their job is, and what their chore is, and what their task is. And it's so big, the magnitude of it is, it's so huge that for those that do spread out, don't understand the significance of it, how large it actually is. Because again, if they could touch on the significance of bringing their light, of their divinity into the world, of self-actualizing, of connecting with themselves, right, that it would be so overwhelmingly, just overwhelming, I don't even know the words for it, that they wouldn't know how to function in this world. It would just be too hard, in a sense, and it would be the contrast, would be too painful. Like the contrast of knowing that, you're such a divine being, you're such a timeless divine being, the light, the purity of your light, the effervescence, not the effervescence, but the radiance, of your light, the nature of your light, the transcendentalism of your light, right? Whatever it is that you are embodying, that you're bringing out, that you are acting upon, the uniqueness, how there's very few people doing it, how exclusive it is, You can just imagine this exclusivity of it. It's like you're one out of maybe 100 million. Like you have no idea how rare you actually are, But at the same time, you are limited like you cannot believe that you could possibly, in your wildest nightmares, ever imagine. You're stuck in the middle of a city, polluted city, light pollution, air pollution, electric smog pollution, whatever it is. You're having to work at a job or make ends meet by doing, by trading with money to buy food so you can just survive, food that's been ill-treated, hasn't been brought up, raised, looked after holistically with best intentions. You just about name it, right? Alone, lonely, walking around with people that are mostly just 99% just wearing masks, are not self-actualized, are just perpetuating an absolute darkness into this reality, into this globe. It's your loved ones, in a way. So you are living in some kind of hellish realm to a certain degree. You wake up and the news, you switch on the news and it's just bad news around, and it's just stress everywhere, and it's just children that are heavily medicated. I can carry on. But need I say more? We know the contrast. I'm saying we feel it every single day. We feel it because we feel this beautiful light, this empowering light. We feel this truth of who we are, of what we are, of where we come from, where we're going, what we always are embodied and what we always are connected to. And it's beauty personified. We cannot put words to it, but yet we are trapped within a realm, right, that is severely compromised. Not even compromised, it's just dark. And that's where the duality lies, that the heaven is within and the hell is without, so to speak. The meaning is within, and the meaninglessness is without, in a sense, as above, so below. Yeah, and so that's the task at hand. That is the task at hand, and not giving up hope, not losing heart, because it's so easy to lose heart. I mean, we come here to be pushed to the point of absolutely losing heart, to absolutely that last little bit, by the skin of our teeth, as they say, and then to still continue, to still try to not give up. So we are here to experience that, and I would like to think that we are on some kind of process of evolution, of transcendentalism, in a way, where an ascension, if you will, that for those that embody the light, who are light activators into this world, right, that are self-actualized, that their task here is being fulfilled well, efficiently, and will be able to graduate eventually from this realm. Sadly, it's a bittersweet, because it's not like something isn't being gained now. It's not like something isn't being achieved now. That could only possibly be achieved in its highest form in such an exclusive time, in such a unique time, right? That it's being achieved now. I'm saying because of the consequences, because of the situation, the dark versus the light, the hell versus the heaven, the meaning versus the meaningless, the mindful versus the mindless, the self-appreciation versus the self-depreciation, or self-destruction, or the self-creation versus the self-destruction, the love versus the hate, etc., etc. The higher self, the lower self. So we're in, these very divine time, very unique. And so, just okay, it'll be a bittersweet when we don't have the opportunity anymore for those that carry the light, that don't have the opportunity anymore to because this chapter, the story would have ended, but that the job was done well and well enough, in 10 out of 10, so there's no regrets. But let's not kid ourselves, it's no picnic. It's absolutely no picnic, and the tests keep on coming, and so eventually we just want a little bit of respite, we want a little bit of a break, we want a little bit of the sowing more than just the reaping in a positive sense, in a way. And that's what we desire. And I think with our desire, we drive the evolutionary process at a more of a rapid rate in the right direction. By desiring a world that is harmonious, that is in peace, right? That is imbalanced, that is healthy in that way, right? Which is less stressful. To a degree, we desire that because that's what we need. Since we've graduated, we've had the stress, we've had the duality, the heavy dose of duality, we've had the evil, we've had the darkness, we've had the despair, we've had the loneliness, we've had the feeling of disconnect, we've had those kind of experiences, and they kind of no longer serve us anymore. They served its role, and therefore we can now move on, to more, something that can serve us even higher, in a higher way, right? In a higher way, where we can really enjoy the fruits of our labor, if you will. The fruits of our labor. And so maybe through our desire, again, our drive for that, we are pushing the evolutionary, the ascension, right? We are from, again, the primate monkey being mind, to an ascension onto the ladder of Godhead, as Terence McKenna would say, that we are becoming more angelic, so to speak. We are the worm becoming the caterpillar. The worm becoming the butterfly, the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. That we are shedding the narrative, we are shedding, right, human history at the same time, right? That we are shedding it all in order to gain flight, right? Because that's the next frontier, and so we desire it with every fiber of our being, and also we desire to do the best possible job here that we possibly can, right? Because we know how important it is, we know how relevant it is. So the wheels and the driver of evolution here. Amazing at the end of history, so to speak. And yet, the future is not promised to anybody. There is no promise. There is absolutely no reason that I'm saying from the physical point of view, when you look at the world, to understand that where this ascension lies, where this evolution happens, how does it take place? Because it just seems that we will be moving into more of a cashless society, more of a health passports required, more stronger governance, harder control from, whatever it is, surveillance on every step, no sense of privacy, not even your thoughts will be, will be private anymore, or whatever it is, It just seems so awful. It just seems so inhumane. It just seems so heartless, so machine-like, and so void of nature, void of reality, void of meaning, void of soul, void of spirit. And so far, the odds, if I was a betting guy, I'm saying on the world level scale, that's where I would place my bets. This is where the trajectory is, this is where it's going. So the ascension part, right, requires faith, requires risk, requires blind trust, which is faith in a way, in the knowing of a divine process, a knowingness that there's an underlying divine process that's unfolding here, underneath the seams of the fabric of this reality, of this dimension, but we can feel it. We can feel it if we tap into it. It is there. It's beyond the surface of things. It's beyond the layers and dimension of this world, of the 3D dimension of this world. But we can feel it. A sense of purpose, a sense of drive, a sense of motivation, a sense of direction, a sense of meaning behind it. And so it's not tangible. It cannot be shown to somebody, maybe in a metaphor, maybe in a picture, maybe in a movie, maybe in a song, maybe in whatever it is, but it can't necessarily be shown on a chartboard or something like that, or a diagram or a pie chart or something, whatever it is. But it can be expressed by the artist in different kind of ways. And as McKenna said, if the artist cannot find the way cannot be found. And so the light-bearing people are those that are the artists. Those are the ones that are finding the way. I mean, maybe we are creating that ascension, the path for ascension, the doorway for ascension, the passageway for ascension. Maybe we are doing that. The visionaries, the pioneers, if you will, the prophets, the poets, right? The lovers, the romantics, in that way. The intuitives, the empaths. Building a kind of dimension future, right, which is transcendental, which is inspired from the light in a way, so to speak. So maybe, it's hard to say. Maybe it's through our dreams. Maybe it's through our imagination. Maybe it's through our desires that we create a world that we feel that we wish to inhabit, not just for ourselves, but the future generation, and for the future of and for the necessity of this evolution that we desire. We are ambassadors, right? We are the gatekeepers in a way. Not really the gatekeepers, but the like in the Matrix, the locksmith, I think it is. We are the locksmiths that are unlocking the door, in a way, to create the future ascension. The weed eater goes next door. That's what we're putting up with. That's what we're absolutely putting up with. High states of consciousness at the same time while having a weed eater or the tree cut down next to you or something like that, with a chainsaw hammering away or whatever it is. Yeah, so up to the artists, up to the visionaries, up to the empaths, up to the self-actualized, and that's the calling. That's the calling that's currently going on. We are the what do you call it when there's a nurse who delivers the child? I'm not quite sure, but we are delivering in a way from this dimension into the next one, as far out as that may seem. Try and explain this last little bit of this talk that I've just been doing now to a bunch of people now sitting in an office on Monday morning. I'm saying at a marketing or advertising company or I don't know, an investment company or a life insurance company or a retail company or something like that. Like my father's company right now, in their Monday morning meeting, all wearing masks, maybe behind perspex. He's sitting behind perspex glass, whatever it is, not to spread the CVs or whatever it is, and things like that. And again, what's his business about? It's about retail, ladies' fashion, shoes and clothing and things like that. And I try and explain something as psychedelic as this to them, it would be absolutely impossible, and you would just see him as a sheer nutter, an absolute sheer nutter. Although it's pretty evidential, like what you're talking about, in the sense of the darkness of the world, of not really bringing any value, of us being, hiding the shame of not being connected with our authentic selves, and so on or other, so that is definitely there. For everybody to see. But again, the states of denial, the states of the mask that they wear, it's impossible for them to see. They are blind, and then they do not know. And so my point, just ending off here, is that, like, even though it is so psychedelic, even though it is so unusual, even though it's not what mainstream media is talking about, this reality does exist. This ascension is happening, right? It is taking place. It is a process that is unfolding right here, right now, and that you very much are a part of. So even though you might not feel it at times, and even though you can't speak to most people about it, most people, and just because most people are not talking about it, doesn't mean that it's not in fact really happening. Alright folks, with that I wish you much love and take care.